Hi, my name is Gail, and welcome to my New York City apartment. So this is my foyer area. This is where I house my shoes. I have storage for some records. This is also where I drop my keys in a key dish. I try to keep a nice natural scented candle going and some fresh flowers, sunglasses. And I also have this mirror, which is very important to me because it's a good look at myself before I enter back into the world. And also there are no windows on this side of the apartment, so I really like how it reflects the light of the windows, which are directly across the room. And then I also put in some hooks so that I can hang my jacket, hang my bags, my umbrella, you know, whatever I so choose. And then in this piece of furniture, which I found on the street down I think a few blocks away. I saw this after I had moved into the apartment. And I kid you not, I carried this for about 3 blocks by myself. It was like right on my hip. I did have a little bruise, but eventually one of my neighbors saw me and he helped me carry it up. So thank you, neighbor, very kind. And this is where I display some of my glassware, little trinkets, and inside I have more shoe storage, which is great because no one has to see it. It's not very visually pleasing. So you just close the door, and it's very pretty and contained. And then on top I have a little figurine and some draping greenery, which you'll see throughout my apartment. So moving from the foyer to the kitchen, believe it or not, this kitchen is way bigger than my previous kitchen in my previous apartment, which was quite literally just like a wall. Anyway, so I have plenty of space to cook. Some of the new renovations that I've done recently is that I put down this peel and stick tile. I knew I wanted to do that because before this really was just like a white box, and I thought having a checkered tile pattern would add a lot of character and also not be too much work. Luckily, I didn't have to like cut or adjust any of the squares. I did have to like kind of lift the oven a little bit to slide it underneath. I feel like I'm making myself out to like sound really strong, but I don't know. I had to like lift the oven, and I did that by myself too. Anyway, so I put down checkered floor tile, and then I changed out the hardware, which previously was like this chunky silver, not so pretty looking, to this sleeker distressed brass, which I think made a huge difference in itself. And another thing that I did was that I installed some underlighting to the cabinets. Just because I really try to avoid turning on the overheads. I will spare your eyes from that experience, but it's very like fluorescent, very hospital vibe. So this just creates like a warmer, cozier atmosphere. And then I also put in this little curtain to hide the trash and recycling bins behind it. Before, it just kind of looked like a not so pleasing corner in the kitchen. So this just adds a little bit of daintiness and a little bit of charm. Yeah, also a very simple thing to do that made a huge difference. Because the kitchen felt so white and so lifeless, I wanted to add pops of color. Therefore, I got like a big bold table lamp right next to my butter dish. So there's like a mustard ketchup thing happening in that corner. And then I also chose to display some of the grains that I frequently use, which is popcorn. I have a lot of popcorn, stovetop popcorn, rice, pasta, and then like a cute little flower moment happening. And then in this corner, I don't know why, I think objects always look better in thirds. So I stacked my chopping block with another mirror to reflect the windows across the way. And then I either have live flowers, in this case I have some dried lavender in a vase that I got from a local thrift store. And then I also installed some wall planters, which I found, oh gosh, what state was it? I think it was like North Dakota or something. I searched online for maybe 2 hours trying to find exactly what I was thinking, and this is the closest I can get. I wanted like a terracotta, again, subtle color, pop of green. Honestly, a lot of these leaves died when I first put it up, so I'm happy that these have stuck around. Growing up, we always had a lot of pictures, a lot of, you know, pieces of our life on the refrigerator, so I kind of do that with my home as well. So I have like a little picture of my family. This is a magnet that I hijacked from my mom that I always grew up with, and I asked her if I could have it, and she said yes. Yeah, so it just adds more character, and it's like a little gallery wall for my kitchen. And then we have, you know, some cookbooks that I never use, more trinkets, and another plant that drapes on the side of the fridge. So moving from the kitchen to the dining room, because I don't have a lot of drawers in my kitchen or a lot of storage in general, I decided to get some magnetic baskets for the side of the fridge. So this is where I keep some of my electronics, my like pens and papers. It segues into the dining room. I kind of have an obsession with pendant lights and dining nooks especially. So when I moved in here, I was trying to brainstorm how can I create a dining nook in a room that is quite literally just a rectangle. So I think the anchor to this corner is actually the refrigerator. It separates it from the kitchen and kind of starts the space visually. And I knew that having a pendant light would anchor the table and anchor this part of the apartment. I love hosting. I love having dinner parties. I love making a big cheese board and like having a wine night and having friends over and family. So I needed a table that could at least hold 4 people. And then I also have like chairs in my closet that I can flank the table with. So I can sit 6 people, which is very exciting and a big deal for me because I've never been able to do that in my apartments in New York. But again, trying to maximize storage wherever I can. This bench or this ottoman opens up so I can have some blankets, more electronics, more candles, just, you know, whatever you would put in a closet, I put in my bench. And I wanted to also anchor this seating area. So I found these panels off of Etsy and I decided to make like my own version of a bench. I wanted to create a nice bench, and what I was finding online was like hundreds of dollars, like thousands of dollars to customize your own bench. And I was like, okay, how can I make what I want but for $200? And this is what I came up with. And then I got this table, which is kind of like a mid-century style with the legs, these like beautiful cane chairs, all from Amazon. I tried to find some vintage pieces, but again, you know, working with the budget. I did what I could with the budget that I had, and I really love how it turned out. I have a lot of artwork that I was trying to figure out a place for. I didn't think I would have a gallery wall in this apartment because I've had gallery walls in my previous apartment, but this one felt a little different. Like, I know it is a gallery wall, but it feels a little more intentional, not too many frames. I think all the frames give a visual extension to the wall and makes the space look bigger than it actually is. But the artwork is just various pieces collected from my travels. That's one of my paintings from high school. I painted this guy in college. My cousin painted this piece, and yeah, others are like, this one's from Paris, that one's from Dominican Republic. Each piece has its own story attached to it, which I could go on and on about, but I won't because I will spare you your time, I guess. I love my dining room. It's great. And I always have a bouquet of flowers or some type of dried flower on the table just to give more life to the space. So moving from the dining room into the crown jewel, the living room. When I first moved into this apartment, I was actually pleasantly surprised about this brick fireplace. The apartment that they had actually showed me was a different room. And when I went to go sign the papers, I was like, okay, I want to see the apartment one more time just to make sure everything's in order. And I walk in and they showed me a different apartment on a different floor, and it had this brick fireplace. So I didn't say anything because I was like, okay, like this is way better. And like same rent price and everything. So this was unexpected. This kind of came to me in my apartment search, which is great. But anyway, so cozy. Who doesn't love a good brick? It's not a working fireplace though. So in place I have layered pillar candles that I'll light at night, and it gives the same effect of a fireplace. And then on top, I just have some more trinkets, books, and figurines that belong to my grandparents. Candle holders from Brooklyn. I got these at my best friend's wedding. Everything in my apartment really has like sentimental value to me. And even this plant, this was like on the side of the street and it said, I'm in need of a new home. So I took it home that day and it's been with me for 2 years now. And then moving on to my bookshelf, found this bookshelf on Facebook Marketplace. It is decorated with objects that I got at different flea markets, thrift stores, through my travels. Yeah, I'm currently plant sitting this guy for my friend while she's in Baltimore. And it's been a nice funky addition to the corner of this room. This is kind of like my library corner. I have some of my books, journals, some plants again. For me, it's like the collective details that really add up to create character. And when I look at this shelf, it feels like a reflection of me in form of a bookcase, which sounds very strange, but that's how I feel about it. And I also have on display 2 of my medals from running the New York City Marathon 2 years in a row, which was quite the endeavor, but I try not to, show off accomplishments, but it felt like it deserved a place on my bookshelf. And this salt lamp was gifted to me by my first roommate in my first New York City apartment. I think she ordered one online and they sent her 2 by accident. This was maybe 8 years ago. That apartment was so small. My room was like the size of my kitchen, and then I had 2 roommates. It was right near Lincoln Center. I loved that area and I don't regret that experience, but it has some value that this has been with me throughout all 8 years of me living in New York City. And it was gifted by someone who became my friend when we were at first total strangers. So that's just one story of one object on this bookshelf. So another selling point of this apartment for me was obviously the fireplace when I moved in, but also these massive windows. Even though this apartment only has windows on this side, you could see that these are giant, and on a sunny day, the light will spill throughout the entire apartment. But one thing that I did just to make an illusion of it being bigger was that I installed the curtain rods closer to the ceiling so that I can have a nice draping effect and just kind of trick the eye into thinking that the windows are bigger than what they actually are. And I don't know, I grew up watching Disney princess movies, so I love in the morning when I get to wake up and welcome the day, Yeah, kind of silly, but it does give me a lot of joy. And yeah, when I first moved in, again, I lived in a smaller apartment previously, and even though I hired moving companies, there are certain things that I prefer to move by myself, which are my plants and my records. So first I moved all my plants, and when I got here, I kind of just threw them on the windowsill, thinking I would go back and reconsider and rethink where I wanted to place them in my apartment. But in the end, I kind of liked how it looked. I just spaced them out a little more evenly. Even this seashell chime, I made this myself as well. And I put this on the window, when I first started moving things into the apartment. And again, I thought maybe I would change it up, but eventually it kind of grew on me. And I was I think I like how it looks. So I just kept it as is. And then these little crystal balls were a gift from one of my best friends. And when the sun hits them, it creates a rainbow shower on the wall and, everywhere in the apartment, which is really nice. And this is my media console. Well, really just my record console. I have some games that I don't really use, and I have some storage in this drawer, but primarily this is a piece of furniture that holds and plays my records. I've been building my record collection for 10 years now. They're kind of a combination of records that were given by my parents, records that belong to my grandparents, gifts, flea markets, thrift stores, you name it. Even last night I went to a concert. I saw Truesdale at Irving Plaza, and they had their newest record at the merch table, so obviously I had to buy it, and that's what I've been listening to today. Yeah, and even these record display holders, I got these off of Amazon when I lived in my first apartment, the one that I was just talking about, the very small box. I feel like when you live in a small apartment, you're forced to get creative with how you store your items. And for me, I've found that sometimes it's good to have things that serve 2 purposes. So these display holders, 1, hold my records, but 2, they kind of act as a rotating art piece. A lot of these things remain stationary, but I change this out weekly of what I'm listening to. So on the other side of the credenza, I have another crowning jewel of my apartment, which is this floor lamp. I got this in Providence, Rhode Island when I was visiting my sister. And luckily at the time I had a car in New York City, so I was able to put it into 2 pieces, which it disconnects right here. So the arms and then the base. and I drove it into the city, and it's been with me for the past 3 apartments that I've lived in. I really love it. Like in my previous apartment, it really grounded like the living room because it was a very, very small living room. This is a luxury for me, having this much space. My other living room was way smaller, which maybe I can give you guys like the video or a picture of what it looked like. Yeah, I really liked this lamp because it grounds the space, it gives like visual interest, and it also acts as an art piece, similar to my records. Like this feels like it's both a source of light and also just like visual intrigue. So this piece I found on the street right outside of a bar. It was like kind of surrounded by trash. It was a very like blaring white color. And at the time I was decorating my apartment and I was creating YouTube videos, which I still do, about how I decorate my space and the process behind it. But yeah, I had this huge wall and I was like, I want a big piece of artwork to fill the space. And we all know that that would cost a lot of money. I looked into canvases, I looked into creating my own piece in some way. And literally within that time span, I came across this and I was like walking down the street, I saw it, I stopped and I like considered it. And you know when like you know you're gonna do something, but you know it's gonna like take some extra work or extra motivation and you're kind of like debating with yourself whether or not it's worth it. I had maybe like 5 minutes of that staring at this, like in the pitch black darkness. But anyway, I decided to bring it home, painted it, cleaned it, mounted it, and yeah, I love it. And it turns out that this was an Urban Outfitters mirror, which one of my YouTube subscribers commented and told me, and I think it was originally retailed at like $700. So I guess whoever had it, the mirror must have broke and they decided it was trash. And shortly thereafter, I saw it and decided it was gonna be my wall art. This is my beautiful green couch. This is also a very big deal for me because this is the first time I've been able to have a full-size couch in my New York apartment. And I know some people question why you would want to live in such a small living space, but the way I think about it is that like I grew up in a big family. I had my own room. Then I went to college. Like I had my own room there. And then after college, I immediately like lived with roommates in the city, and gradually I have been getting more and more space. So maybe it's just a different lifestyle, but the fact that I'm able to have a full-size couch in my living room that someone can sleep on or like people can converse on is a big win. But before we leave the living room, there's some other noteworthy items that I want to talk about. These 2 accent chairs I got from Facebook Marketplace when I was living in New Jersey. They're in beautiful condition. I love the cane. When I picked them up, I spent maybe like 2 hours just in my mom's backyard cleaning them and, you know, getting all the dust. But these 2 only cost me $35 together, which is a steal. This side table, I think was an Urban Outfitters or West Elm side table, but I also got it on Facebook Marketplace and I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I picked this up in a snowstorm. I walked like 25 minutes to pick it up because there was like another buyer who was gonna be there in the next hour if I didn't show up. So imagine me like in snow gear carrying this, and it's also made out of clay. So I had it like on wheels and I was just navigating a snowy Brooklyn street to get this home. This coffee table, also Facebook Marketplace. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm a big believer in secondhand and reusing furniture because I think 1, it helps the environment, 2, furniture will outlive us all. And I think it's very important to care for it and to give it a second home when it has outlived its current home. So hopefully when I'm finished with these pieces, someone else can take them and use them. And I guess the last thing I would say about my living room is that I have some coffee table books that I really love. And I'll show you very quickly. This book I got from The Strand, which is a very popular, famous bookstore in New York City. And I really love it because these are discarded family photos from the Vietnam era. Basically at that point, everyone used film photography, so they would send their film to a processing plant, and this plant deemed these disposable. So someone found the disposed photos and created a book out of it. And I just love it because it's like everyday people. And even though these pictures were captured like 60 years ago, it feels like you know the person in the frame, which I think is special. And this book is the history of the subway. I could bore you with facts, but I won't. And finally, this is my newest book. I recently went to a talk with Mary Ellen Matthews. She is the photographer for Saturday Night Live for the past 25 years, and she was having a talk and a panel about her discussions regarding photography and portraiture. I am a photographer and a content creator as well, so it was very interesting to hear about her work and her background story, and she was kind enough to even sign it for me, which is nice. And yeah, that is my living room. I'd love to host you and have you for some wine and cheese. So moving from the living room to the bedroom. And even just the fact of having a separate bedroom in New York is kind of a big deal. So I don't take that lightly. This is my beautiful one bedroom. I wanted to keep things pretty simple in this space. I didn't want it to be visually overwhelming. I feel like in the living room, I really played with a lot of colors and a lot of patterns, and a lot of textures. But in my bedroom, I decided to keep it simple, keep it visually clean, and just calming. So if you didn't tell already, I really like doing pops of color and like pops of yellow. Here, it's a bit more subtle, but I decided to play off the colors of this painting and get some yellow pillows, although these pillows have actually been in my past 4 apartments with me as well. If I like something, I really try to find a space for it in my next home. Luckily, I am not extremely tall, so my full-size bed was able to fit in this direction so that I can have the most space in the rest of the bedroom. And then I decided on like some simple picture frames. I got those prints in Morocco a couple years ago when I was traveling with some friends, and I thought they were very beautiful. And again, just like playing with height, even though I didn't install the curtain rod higher, I feel like having stacked frames kind of has a similar effect where it makes the wall look taller than it is. Then I have this pendant light. The night after I installed it, I kind of kept waking up and I was like, oh my God, like I hope this thing doesn't fall on my stomach. Luckily, it's been very secure. I've lived here for 2 years now, so that's not going anywhere, which is very fortunate. And another more recent addition is this area rug. Before, I would like get up in the morning and, you know, my feet would hit the cold floor and it wasn't so cozy. So I wanted to ground this area of the bedroom and also just make it a smoother transition as I enter and exit my day. On the side of the bed, I have a very simple bedside table. I didn't really need any storage. I just wanted an area where I can put my phone, a glass of water, some flowers, and this just does that. I found this at where was it? It wasn't a flea market. It was an estate sale. I think also in New Jersey. I think I got this for like $10, which is also crazy because it's made out of metal. It's beautiful and it's gonna be with me for a long time. Additionally, this lamp came from that same estate sale. So these 2 pieces have exited one home together and into a new home together. This bedroom dresser I got off of Facebook Marketplace. I also kind of go into detail on my YouTube channel about the whole background story of when I got this, but in summary, I got this off of Facebook Marketplace, and this very kind man carried this all the way up my staircase. I live on the 4th floor, so he carried this up to my bedroom, and he also drove it from upstate New York. So I think I paid $120 or $150 on it. And then of course I had to give him a tip because he went above and beyond, which I was very grateful for. And again, I have another painting print. This is a Picasso print. That one's an Edward Hopper print. But when I got this one in particular, it was a Black Friday sale at a thrift store in New Jersey. And I didn't know it was a Picasso painting. I had no idea. I just thought it was really nice and I liked the colors. So I bought it, and it wasn't until I went to the MoMA, I think it's at the MoMA, where I walked in and I saw the real painting that took up an entire wall, and I was like, oh, it's Picasso. That was like years later. So that was kind of a funny moment. I use the surface area to have trinkets, jewelry, little dried flower moment. Another trick that I've learned throughout the years of living in smaller homes is having mirrors that are tastefully placed. So this mirror used to be above my fireplace mantle, but that room already feels spacious. It wasn't really reflecting anything. So I decided a few months later that I wanted to put this in the bedroom, because prior to this, even though this bedroom was cozy and I was doing the best that I could, it still felt like cavernous, like it felt still like some small box. So I decided to mount this on the wall, and it really just, again, opens up the space and yeah, another place where I can check out my outfit before I leave for the day. So this is the only closet in my entire apartment, which, you know, is unfortunate that I don't have more existing storage space, but I do what I can. And it is quite big, which is nice. Forgive the mess that you're about to see. Right before this kind camera crew came in, I was kind of just shoving things in here that I didn't think looked visually pleasing. But yeah, there's like built-in shelving. I really just tried to like maximize how much I can fit in the one closet that I have in my New York apartment. And I think I did a good job. And I could probably do a better job, but there's always room for growth. And then finally, this is my bathroom, which is also a big deal because my first apartment, I shared a small bathroom with 2 girls. My second apartment, I was living with a boyfriend at the time, so we shared a bathroom. And then I lived with 2 other girls in my next apartment. So the fact that I have my own bathroom is really nice. I would say it's fairly spacious. I did the same thing with the curtain rod for my shower. I put it all the way on top of the ceiling just to give the illusion of it being a bigger space. It's quite simple right now. I think this is my room for growth moment. I think next time I take on a project for my apartment, which if you want to watch my YouTube channel, I'm sure I will have a dedicated video for that. This is coming up, but right now it's just quite simple. I have some small frames, I have some dried flowers. There's an interesting tile pattern that was here when I first moved in, so I kind of just am learning to embrace it, and I've been kind of thinking what color I want to do for the space, whether it's going to be like a burgundy or a rust or a sage green. I'm not sure. I'm still brainstorming. Ideas are welcomed, but yeah, it's simple. It's my bathroom. It serves its purpose, and yeah, I like it. My name is Gail. I live in New York City, and in New York City, I am a photographer and a photo editor for a media company. But on the side, I still have a hard time calling myself this, but I am one. I am a content creator on YouTube, a fairly new endeavor. I've had my own YouTube channel for a little over a year now. On that channel, I documented when I was moving from my previous apartment to this apartment and literally the entire process of how I decorated this space. From the kitchen to the dining room to the living room to when I got this fabulous area rug, it is all there. And now I am mainly talking about my life here in New York and figuring out how I can also help others decorate their space. And I've been in this neighborhood longer than I had been in any other neighborhood so far in my New York career. This is really great though, because I live right near Central Park. This has been the neighborhood where I've lived by myself, so I've had full creative control over decorating my apartment, which has been really, I think, like life-changing in a way, because once I was able to have that creative control, I decided to start sharing it on social media, on YouTube, and it's kind of given me an opportunity to show the skills that I have and to share it with the world and kind of like figure out what I can do with it moving forward. But I love living in New York. Some people like wonder why would you spend, you know, so much money? My current rent is $2,700, and I know for some people they'd be like, holy crap, that is so much money for something that you don't own, which I totally agree with. Like thinking about how much money I spent on rent that I don't actually have anything, you know, physical or any value once I pay that rent that month. I think the value comes in from like the arts, from Central Park, from, you know, I went to a concert last night and I saw like my favorite band because they were playing 30 minutes away. I don't have to like maintain a yard. I don't need a car. My lifestyle is just welcoming to this cost at this point in my life. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice because I think the value that I'm getting is definitely worth it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay on this journey with me and about my life here in New York or my interior design journey, I invite you to follow my YouTube channel or follow me on Instagram. It'll be fun, I think. So you're more than welcome to join in on the journey. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
We feature so many incredible spaces in our tours, and we're always getting questions about where to find the pieces you see in them. That's why we created Curated Finds. a collection on our site with pieces ranging from furniture, kitchen and dining, bed and bath, to decor, art and prints, rugs, lighting, and office accents, all inspired by the homes we feature. And we'll be updating the collection regularly with new favorites, so there's always something fresh to explore whenever you visit. From accent chairs and side tables to wall art and area rugs, we've pulled everything into one place, carefully hand-picking pieces that match the style, mood, and vibe you see in our tours. You can check it out now at taoi.ca. Browse the finds and discover pieces to bring that same feeling into your own space.